Hello and welcome to another Dark Mount video review. This time we're taking a look at the Japanese exclusive AM-24 Silas breakdown. This figure is a retooling and a recolor of another Japanese exclusive figure, AM-12 War Breakdown. Both of these figures are part of the Japanese Prime line, which was called Arms Micron, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, neither mold made it over to the American Transformers Prime lines. I'm not sure if they thought they were too complicated or if there was other issues. I have no clue. I have no insight into that, but I think it's a travesty. This mold is easily one of the best in the entire Prime, Beast Hunters, everything line. So the fact that it didn't make it over here is actually quite sad, because it's a fantastic mold, whether you get the Silas breakdown or the original one. Breakdown comes with an Arms Micron. Now this is the main gimmick for the Japanese series. They come with these little transforming, not really, they kind of fold around. They call it transforming. They're, I guess, analogous to Minicons, maybe, but not really. I mean, they're closer to model kits in that they come without being assembled, and you have to kind of click them together. They're okay. I mean, some of them are kind of cool. They're very Japanese. I mean, this isn't something that would be very popular in the States, I don't think. These would just end up getting broken and lost, and instead of this, we got all the strange mech-tech-esque transformy weapons with the first Prime figures, which, to be honest, also weren't so great. So I'm not sure which of these would be better, to be honest. At least this has a little bit more play value than what we got in the States. So I am going to take him off for now, and we'll take a quick look at him just to get him out of the way. His name is Magi. It is a part of the Japanese word for mantis, which I believe, it's kamakiri. So they took the middle part of that, the maki, and they made it magi instead. I have no idea why. I don't totally understand the naming conventions for these guys either. They seem to just be random portions of the names kind of chopped up, and sometimes they'll change a syllable here or there, but... So, his transformation is pretty simple. You're going to start down here, and you're going to open up his little legs, like that. Then you're going to fold this whole body unit up, like that. And then from there, you can pretty much position these however you want. I think the stock standard is something like that, but I usually do like a one down, one up kind of situation, like he's in a fighting pose of some sort, just to give it a little bit of variance. And sorry, I put the legs down a little bit too much. And that's him. I mean, it's nothing special. He's got a little crystal here. Not entirely sure what that's supposed to be. I don't know if there's any differences in the Japanese version of Prime that would make this relevant in some way. Who knows? He's nothing amazing. He's a little dude. Like I said, I think he's got a little bit more play value than the transforming weapons we got in the States with our guys, so I think I'd probably vote for him over that, but either way, neither one of them's too great. They're nothing to write home about. This is definitely not why you're buying this figure. So we're just going to take Magi and move him off to the side. Now, on to the meat. Silas Breakdown is a massive black, I don't even know, military truck, van, kill machine thing. This thing looks scary. If I saw this driving down the road, I would probably avert my eyes and try not to draw attention to myself. This looks like something that some armed guards would pop out of in Black Baggy or something. It is pretty much the same thing as the original Breakdown mold, minus this giant chrome grille. And as you will probably notice as I work my way through my collection, I am not a fan of chrome. It's something that Japanese figures love to do, and a lot of older G1 and Classics figures sometimes do. I know a lot of people like it. I hate it. I think it's terrible. First off, I just don't generally like the way it looks. I don't like things looking shiny. It reminds me of like the original Battlestar Galactica with the lens flares everywhere. It seems kind of tacky to me. That said, I think it kind of works on this figure. it doesn't bug me at all. I don't know entirely why. I'm hoping it doesn't start to weather and I don't get any chipping, because I think it will start to bother me if I see that, which is my other main complaint about Chrome. I don't like the way it holds up. But really, honestly, in this figure, for whatever reason, maybe it's just because of how black this figure is and the fact that this is a very stark contrast, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't look cheap to me. It doesn't feel cheap, which is another good thing, because a lot of chromed plastic sometimes feels very cheap to me. All around, surprisingly enough, not a detractor for this. So his transformation is, I wouldn't say difficult. It's definitely a little more complicated than the other Prime figures. I suspect that might be part of the reason that Hasbro did not decide to bring this mold over to the States. I have a feeling that if this was available in the US, there would be a whole lot of screaming, crying children with broken toys and angry parents demanding refunds. There are lots of kind of swivelly parts and things you have to get right into place, and I could just see this is not one of the more kid-friendly of the Prime toys. It's not complicated necessarily, but you do need to know what you're doing, and there are a lot of tabs that you can break. And there's especially a kind of situation here in the back that requires some very precise pressure. I'm not sure if you can see that. There are little tabs right here. And we'll get into that more in the actual transformation, but it's definitely a part that I would be a little concerned about having a kid do, at least unsupervised. As for vehicle mode size comparisons, before we get into the transformation proper, here he is next to the Viacon mold. And I apologize, the ridiculous amount of black on these figures is kind of making details a little hard to pick out here. I do think they scale pretty well together. It's not amazing. I think the Viacon could probably stand to be a little bit larger, just in terms of relative car size, but I mean, other than that, this is also just a massive, massive truck, so I'm kind of fine with him being slightly out of scale towards the bigger side with the other Primes. It really just adds to his kind of imposing, menacing quality that he's got. Here he is next to his buddy Knockout in the Dark Energon version. As for transformation, the first thing you're going to want to do, and this will give us a better look at those tabs I was talking about earlier, is pull up this entire back section. And I find it easiest if you kind of wrap your thumb between where the bumper is and this wheel and kind of give it an outward push, and that'll swing the whole thing up. Now, I'm not going to transform back into vehicle mode, so I just will quickly go over these two tabs right here. When you're transforming into vehicle mode, at least the first couple of times for me, were very difficult to get lined up with the slots here and here. I actually thought that the toy was possibly misaligned or mistooled in some way, and I was very upset about it until I realized that you really, really just need to apply a lot of pressure, and it will eventually click into place. Once you get these two tabs in place, all of these panel lines here, which usually won't hold together until then, will start looking much more solid like they do right now. Until you do that, you're going to get a lot of gapping here, you'll get some gapping here, this whole wheel well area is going to be kind of disconnected looking. The second you clip that in, it's going to hold the entire back half. So if you are trying to transform this figure for yourself and you're having some trouble, make sure you're pushing this down all the way, because these, even if they're slightly upwards, will not peg in there at all. So you need to kind of pull it down and make sure you get some downward forward pressure on it, and it will tab into those two spots. So you want to start by pulling this up, and then you'll start to see all the panels that I was talking about as you unfold the legs. Do that on both sides. And here, first bit of transformation. I'm going to want to take this entire part, rotate it, and then once you get to about here, this whole thing will actually bend. and then you can continue to rotate it up until the, I can't see it, there is a tab right here, and it will peg in to a slot right there. So you want to go like this and then keep rotating it until it matches up, and then it will click in, and that kind of forms the whole back calf and leg. On the other side again, rotate up, fold, and keep rotating until it matches up. Now that right there is part one that I'm pretty sure a lot of kids are going to break. This little hinge right here doesn't seem like it's going to take a whole lot of bending, so I mean it does look like it pops off, so it's possible I'm a little overprotective with this figure, but it's a thin part, it's connected on a very thin joint, and it's a lot of swiveling and bending in a very particular way. If you go too far up and try to bend it, you're going to be smacking into this. If you don't go far enough, you're going to be bending the piece over the wheel here. So it's a very particular set of movements that you have to do to not stress this piece and not stress this joint. But once you figure it out, it's pretty easy. After that, you're going to want to rotate the entire waist, and you can kind of just fold this up a little bit to get it out of the way. Now, the front part of this vehicle is really cool, and I've got to be honest, the transformation on this figure is probably one of my favorite in any Transformers ever. It's not super complicated, like I said before, but it's kind of ingenious. You split this whole top part right here, and the arms will actually rotate out from the sides and then the entire front side of the vehicle will also disconnect. It's pegged in right here at the bottom. Disconnect from there and rotate out a little bit. As you rotate it out, you're going to want to swivel this entire piece right here. So it'll start in like that. As you're pulling it out, you need to fold it upwards, and that will create the first bit of the shoulder. On the other side again, that is the starting position. Unpeg it up here as you're folding it out. Also rotate it outwards. And then they are on two swivel joints. You can just flatten those out. This next part, I like to forget a lot. It's very important to turn the figure over and split these two sides. Which shouldn't be difficult. There we go. And they will actually slide aside and kind of fill out the chest a little bit and give them some robo-pecs. Now you can fold this entire bit down. Well, there's a bit of a surprise. You might have seen it. For those out there who have not yet watched Prime, I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but there is a bit of a surprise inside of him. You might have just caught it. Anyway, so fold this entire part down, and it will click in. Unlike on the first version of the mold, this entire grill here, that used to be the bumper on the original mold, will not fold into the chest. It just chills out here. Partly because of the surprise that I mentioned. You can fold those bits around to form the arms. Another pretty ingenious part, where the entire piece here flips around to form the hand. I love that. And once you're done, this whole back piece will fold up and fit very, very snugly up against his back. You can just position his head, get his arms all straightened out. His feet are on a natural tilt, so he will stand about there very easily. You can get him into some wider leg pose, but you'll get a bit of gapping there. He's naturally designed to sit right there. And there you have Silas Breakdown in his robot mode. He has very limited kibble. I mean, I guess you can count the backpack. It's not a very large backpack, so I don't usually. And he's got some stuff jutting out from the back of his legs there. But to be honest, that's not bad. Especially for such a bulky truck, that's really not bad at all. he looks pretty banging, man. This guy's got some attitude to him. I mean, especially all black. The mold itself is pretty intimidating, but with the black and the gunmetal grays, and it looks really nice. His face sculpt is redone from the original mold. And you can see that he's got some decent light piping that's actually showing through his right eye, which is kind of replaced with another different type of ocular, which again, I don't want to spoil if you haven't watched the show too much, so I won't go too much into that. As for this little dude, there are a bevy, as there usually are with the Japanese Arms Micron toys, of Arms Micron ports all over him. You have one here, one here, one here, 3 on the chest, 1 on both arm, 1 on the side of both arms, and 1 on his back, as well as 2 up on the back of the shoulder. So you have a, also here, and here. And honestly, probably more places too that I'm not even noticing. They have a massive amount of ports. So this guy, in his gun mode, or weapon mode, whatever this is supposed to be, can go any number of places. Personally, I usually attach them down here. But that's just for weapon mode. If he's just storing him and I don't plan on using him, I will actually store him right here on the back. And he chills there pretty well. You can also flip these up so they're a little less apparent. And you can't even really see him from the front, which is nice. So there's a storage option there that's not going to put a giant light powder blue Robo Mantis anywhere on your pristine, awesome, badass looking figure. So that's pretty cool. For robot mode size comparisons, here he is next to his Nemesis bulkhead. And I think these two scale really well together. This is the first edition bulkhead, so if you end up getting the, I think it's the Robots in Disguise bulkhead that came out that's a little bit different than this guy. I believe he's a little bit shorter, so it might not scale as well, but to be perfectly honest, in this shot, bulkhead is a slight bit taller, so it's possible it would still scale well. And for Deluxe, here he is next to Starscream. For Articulation, you have limited head rotation due to the fact that his head is kind of recessed. You can really only turn it about that much. You do get a bit of tilt though, so if you're okay with him looking up, he can go kind of a little bit farther. It's head rotation he's not a boss at. So he has full rotation in the shoulders. However, this bit right here does wiggle back and forth on the transformation slider joint, so it will hit into the back if you don't kind of pull the arm out to make room for it here. He has upper thigh swivel, upper arm swivel, elbow bend, and then also this transformation joint. There is no actual articulation in the hand itself. He also has waist swivel, all joints, upper leg swivel, although it is limited, it does not go all the way around, a knee bend, and foot tilt. But unfortunately, no ankle tilt. Like I said though, his feet are posed, so you can get him into wide leg stances, which is nice, but he's not going to stand up straight very well. Well, he will. He'll just look kind of silly. I don't know why you would want to pose him like that anyway. Oh, there goes Breakdown. All in all, this is an amazing figure. I don't know if I'd say he is my favorite in the Prime line, but he's definitely top 3. He honestly might be my favorite. I just don't usually like picking favorites. He's a little bit more expensive. Instead of the basic Voyager price, you're going to be paying at least like $40, $50 for him, especially now that it's a little later. It might have gone up since I purchased. I do think he's worth the money. Either him or the original mold will probably both be about the same availability and pricing, I would assume. If you're not dead set on the Silas version, I can't imagine the other one is any less amazing than this one is. These are some of the coolest toys that either Hasbro or Takara... This is one of the coolest toys that either Hasbro or Takara has come out with in a long time, as far as I'm concerned. It's pretty much perfect in all of its modes. The only complaint I have at all in this entire figure is this piece right here. If there was some way for this to possibly fold up onto the outside of the arm or something, just to give him a little bit cleaner of a hand down there, it'd be nice. That said, I can't even count that as a detractor for this. This figure is so utterly perfect, in my opinion, that I would give it like an 11 out of 10. So the fact that there's one single thing that they could have improved is kind of neither here nor there for me. You should pick this figure up. If you are not on a super tight budget, or even if you're okay with maybe holding off on 2 domestic figures for a little while so you can pick this guy up, he's absolutely worth it. I cannot say enough good things about him. I don't think you could even understand why he's so amazing until you have him yourself. So if you like Prime, if you like the character of Breakdown, or like what goes on with him in the show, you should get this figure. You owe it to yourself to get this figure. Alrighty guys, thanks for watching.